Hey everyone, welcome back to Gabriella's Kitchen. Today I've got another sweet bake for you. We're going to be making an upside down sticky toffee banana cake. Since bananas have been the hype during this time off. For this recipe, you're going to need some butter, bananas, vanilla, brown sugar, eggs, baking powder, self-raising flour, and a nice springform cake tin. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off and working on our caramel, which is going to be the sticky toffee sauce that drips over the cake when we turn it out. So for that, all we're going to do is melt some butter and brown sugar together till it melts together and gets nice and sticky and caramel consistency. So it's on a medium heat. I'm going to go in with my first amount of butter and sugar. I'll make sure I separate the quantities because we're going to be using more butter and sugar afterwards. So into the pan, we're going to add our butter, let that melt, and then we'll add our sugar. Butter's melted, we're going to go straight in with our brown sugar. To that, I'm going to add a nice big pinch of salt. The reason why I'm going to add salt is salt just helps cut the sweetness, but it also complements caramel. Just think of salted caramel, anything, it just works. This is ready. You can start to see the bubbles have come to the surface. And when I push my spatula through it, it can hold the shape. So take that off the heat, this is ready. So we're going to put our caramel into our tin, and as always, whenever we're baking, we always make sure that we grease our tin with butter or oil. This just stops our cake from sticking, and we've got a sheet of greaseproof paper. This just makes it much easier for us when we want to turn it out to peel it off, and we're not going to have any worries that it's going to stick to the bottom. So my tin's ready. My hot caramel is going to go straight into the bottom of that pan. Caramel's in my tin, I've spread it out a little bit, and now we're going to put our bananas on top. So the recipe calls for 4 bananas, we're just going to use 2 now. We're just going to peel them and slice them down the middle lengthways. Put our bananas into our cake tin face down. This is really important because when we turn the cake out, it's going to be upside down, so that presentation side will be face up. If you want, you can add more bananas here, but I think 2 bananas and half makes just the right amount for presentation. We're going to put that into the fridge now. By doing this, we're letting that caramel set, so when it goes into the oven, it's just going to melt slowly and not disappear completely into the sponge. Now we're going to make a start on the sponge. Really simple recipe. Like always, we're going to cream together our butter and our sugar till it's really soft and pale, about 5 to 8 minutes. Another great tip, guys, whenever you're baking at home, make sure all of your ingredients are weighed out. This just makes it so much easier when everything's to hand. Thankfully, I've got Nina who does everything for me, so we're good to go. And make sure your butter is room temperature, so straight into the bowl with the sugar. So that's nice and creamy, it's doubled in volume, it's gone much more pale, and it's airy and fluffy. So now we're going to start to add our eggs. When we're adding our eggs, we want to do our eggs one at a time. If we add them all at once, it's going to end up shocking the mixture, it won't be able to absorb all that moisture. Another little tip is crack your first egg, or whatever egg you're using, into a bowl first. This way we can make sure that there's no shell going into our cake mix and that the egg looks fresh and there's no impurities in it. So 1 egg at a time, with your mixer on slow, and beat that in, and keep on going until you've added them all. Our eggs, now we're going to add our vanilla. So 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, or as I always do, 1 vanilla pod, just straight into the bowl. We've added our vanilla. What we're going to do next is mash our bananas. So your second bananas, which was 2, you're just going to mash them in a bowl with a fork so we've got a nice smooth puree. Bananas ready, but first we're gonna add our flour. So we're using self-raising and some baking powder, just to give our cake a really nice lift. As always, we're always gonna sieve our ingredients in. 2 reasons. 1, we're incorporating air, so we're gonna get a nice sponge. And 2, we're gonna check there's no impurities in the flour. So straight onto the mixture, sieve that in. Then you're gonna fold that in by hand with your spatula or your wooden spoon. So we don't want to over mix this. So I've mixed half of the flour in now, and you can still see there's a few clumps here and there. That's what we're looking for. So now we're gonna add the bananas, and this is just gonna add more moisture and make it easier for us to mix all that flour in. Again, we're doing gentle folding motions. We're not beating the heck out of this because we've just spent ages creaming that butter and sugar to get air in, sifting the flour. Let's just be really delicate now. So this sponge mix is ready, but as always, you know I always like to have a little secret ingredient that's gonna make it a little bit extra special. And that today is completely optional, but this is just a shot of espresso. If you haven't got espresso, just do a teaspoon of instant coffee, diluted in a bit of water with a splash of milk. Adding the coffee is just gonna bring out this really deep flavor with the bananas and the caramel. It works amazing. And trust me, it's not overpowering if you don't like coffee. It also just adds more moisture to the cake. So optional, but I highly recommend. So we're ready to put our sponge mix into our prepared tin. Caramel's gone nice and hard, which is exactly what we're looking for. So just scrape that mixture in and spread it out evenly. Cake mix is in the tin. This is ready to go into our oven. Just a quick little note for you guys at home. If you wanted to do something else instead of bananas, you could use apple, peaches, pineapple. You can use tinned fruit or fresh fruit. Just leave out those 2 mashed bananas in the recipe and you can really get creative and do anything you like. This is going to go into our preheated oven just until our skewer or our knife goes into the center and it comes out with no cake batter on it. When we're checking this cake though, make sure we don't put our knife right to the bottom, otherwise we're going to hit the caramel and it definitely will come out wet. So when you put it into the oven, put it onto a baking tray. Just because we've put so much caramel on the bottom, we don't want it to drip through and make a big mess in your oven. So I've taken the cake out of the oven and we've just let it cool in its tin for about 10 minutes on a cooling wire. So now we're going to turn it out. So just with a knife, just make sure that the edges aren't stuck. So just loosen it all the way around. And then you're going to get your serving plate or cake stand, whatever you want to use. Pick it up. We're going to hold it like this. We're going to flip it over. We're going to loosen it. And just gently release the tin. And because it's still warm, the caramel will just run down the sides. And then we're just going to pop off our lid, and there it is guys, our homemade upside down sticky toffee banana cake. Hope you enjoyed watching. Thanks guys.